What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and the life you've always dreamed of is you? Not your boss, not your past, not your bank account, not the city you grew up in, not the family that raised you. You. And here's what's crazy about that. That's actually the best news you've ever heard. Because if you are the problem, then you are also the solution. Stay with me on this, because by the time we reach the end of this video, something in your mind is going to shift. And I don't say that lightly. I say it because this book, You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, has quietly changed the lives of millions of people who were stuck, frustrated, and completely convinced that their best days were already behind them. And maybe right now, that sounds exactly like you. Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, genuinely glad you found this. And if you've been here before, you already know we don't do surface-level stuff. We go deep. We go real. We talk about the things most people feel but nobody actually says out loud. Today, we're going to walk through one of the most honest, funny, and genuinely life-changing self-help books ever written. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Now, before you think, oh great, another motivational book, I want you to pause that thought. Because Jen Sincero is not your typical self-help writer. She's not some polished guru sitting in a perfectly lit office telling you to visualize your dreams. She's someone who was broke, lost, and pushing 40 with no real direction, who figured it out the hard way, and then wrote about it in the most refreshingly honest way possible. This isn't a book that tells you what you want to hear. It tells you what you need to hear. And if you've been feeling stuck lately, like you're just going through the motions, like life is happening to you instead of for you, I want you to stick around. Because what comes next might be the thing you didn't know you needed to hear today. Oh, and if this kind of content helps you, hit like and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need it. Okay, let's go. Part 1. The life you're living isn't an accident. Let's start with something that might feel a little uncomfortable. The life you have right now? You built it. Every single piece of it. The good parts and the hard parts. The relationships, the job, the bank balance, the habits, the way you talk to yourself at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep. You built all of it. And before you close the video and say, "That's not fair, I didn't choose this," I want you to hear what Jen actually means by that. Because she's not blaming you. She's freeing you. See, most of us walk around carrying these invisible beliefs, these quiet little stories we tell ourselves every single day. Things like, I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve that. People like me don't get to live like that. It's too late for me. And here's the devastating thing. We don't even know we're telling these stories. They live below the surface, in the part of your mind you don't see. Jen calls it the subconscious, and she describes it like an iceberg. The conscious mind, what you think you believe, is just the tiny tip you can see above the water. But underneath, there's this massive, heavy, invisible world of beliefs that runs the show without you even knowing it. Imagine, you're a kid, maybe 7 years old. You come home with a drawing you made in school. You're so proud of it. You run to show your parents. And one of them, maybe distracted, maybe tired, maybe just not thinking, says, "Oh, that's nice, but your sisters are better." One sentence, one moment, and somewhere deep inside that little kid, a story gets written. My best isn't good enough. And that kid grows up, gets older, and every time they try something new, every time they think about going for a promotion or starting a business or asking someone out, that same old story whispers, why bother? Your best isn't good enough anyway. And they don't even know why they keep holding back. That's what Jen is talking about. Our beliefs shape our behaviors. Our behaviors shape our lives. And most of our beliefs were handed to us before we were old enough to question them. But here's where everything starts to shift. The moment you see the belief is the moment it loses its power over you. Because you can't change what you can't see. But once you see it, you get to choose something different. Part 2. The Big Snooze. Jen Sincero has this incredible concept she calls the Big Snooze, and once you understand it, you'll never look at your own excuses the same way again. So here's how she explains it. Inside each of us, there are basically two forces at work. There's the real you, the version of you that's curious, creative, brave, and full of potential. The version that dreams big and feels deeply and wants more out of life. And then there's the Big Snooze. The Big Snooze is the part of you that is terrified of change. It's comfortable, it's familiar. It knows what to expect from the life you already have, even if that life is painful or boring or going nowhere. And when the real you starts to wake up, when you start to feel that pull towards something bigger, the Big Snooze does everything in its power to drag you back into bed. It whispers doubt. It invents excuses. It reminds you of every time you failed before. It convinces you to wait until Monday, or until January, or until the kids are older, or until the economy gets better, or until you feel ready. Sound familiar? And what's so brilliant about this is that Jen isn't saying you're lazy or weak. She's saying your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: keep you safe. Because to your subconscious mind, the unknown is dangerous, even if that unknown is a better life. Here's a real-life picture of this. Think about someone, maybe you know them personally, who's been talking about leaving their unfulfilling job for years. They hate the job. They dream about doing something different. They've told you, they've told themselves, they've probably started 100 side projects that never quite launched. And every time they get close to actually making the leap, something happens. A convenient excuse appears. A new distraction. A sudden wave of maybe this isn't the right time. That's the Big Snooze doing its job. The antidote? Jen says it's awareness combined with action. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to wait until the fear goes away. You just have to move anyway. And this is something Jen learned the hard way herself. She talks about a period in her life where she was living in a converted garage, scraping by, watching her peers build careers and families while she felt stuck in some kind of extended adolescence. She was smart. She was talented. She had big ideas, but she could not get out of her own way. And one day, not through some dramatic Hollywood moment, but through a slow, quiet realization, she decided to stop waiting. She hired a life coach. She read personal development books. She did the uncomfortable inner work. And slowly, painfully, one small brave decision at a time, her life started to change. The Big Snooze didn't disappear, but she stopped listening to it. Starting today, try this one small change. Every time you feel yourself reaching for an excuse, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this the Big Snooze talking, or is this actually true? You'll be surprised how often it's the snooze. Part 3. You and the Universe. Stay with me. Now here's the part where some people get a little uncomfortable, and I want to ask you to keep an open mind. Because even if this isn't exactly how you see the world, there's something in here worth hearing. Jen talks a lot about the idea that we are all connected to something bigger than ourselves. Some people call it God. Some call it the universe. Some call it energy, or flow, or source. The label doesn't matter. What matters is the idea. And the idea is this: you are not just a random collection of cells walking around on a rock floating through space. You are, in the most literal sense, made of the same energy that made the stars. You are a piece of the universe experiencing itself, and you have access to a kind of intelligence and creativity and power that most people never tap into because they don't believe it's there. Now I know, that might sound a little out there, but think about it this way. Have you ever had a moment where everything just clicked? Where an idea came to you out of nowhere and it felt almost too perfect to be coincidence? Or where you thought of someone right before they called? Or where you just knew something deep in your gut before you had any evidence to support it? That's not random. That's you connected to something bigger. Jen says most of us walk around completely disconnected from this. We're in our heads, we're stressed, we're distracted, we're scrolling. And in that noise, we miss the quiet signals. the intuitions, the nudges, the inspired ideas that are trying to guide us toward the life we actually want. The practice she recommends is simple but powerful. Meditation. Not the kind where you levitate and achieve enlightenment, just sitting quietly, without your phone, without input, and letting your mind slow down enough to actually hear yourself. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about clarity. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from getting quiet enough to listen. And that quiet voice, the one that says, you should reach out to that person, or you should write that thing you've been putting off, or you should leave, or you should stay. That voice knows what it's talking about. But wait, this is just the beginning. Part 4. Loving yourself isn't what you think it is. Let's talk about something that gets thrown around a lot, but almost never gets explained properly. Self-love. You've seen it on 1,000 inspirational posts. You've probably rolled your eyes at it at least once. And honestly, fair. Because most of what gets labeled as self-love is surface-level stuff. Bubble baths and face masks and treating yourself. But what Jen talks about is something completely different. Real self-love, the kind that actually changes your life, is about believing that you are worthy, right now, as you are, without needing to prove anything or achieve anything or fix anything first. And for most people, that is the hardest thing in the world. Because we've been taught, explicitly or subtly, that worth is something you earn. You earn it through success, through appearance, through being useful to other people, through being good enough. And so we spend our whole lives chasing the thing we think will finally make us feel worthy. The promotion, the relationship, the number on the scale, the house, the approval of someone whose opinion we've placed way too high. And even when we get those things, the feeling doesn't last. Because the belief underneath, I'm not enough, hasn't changed. Right now, you might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually change that belief? And Jen's answer is both simple and deeply challenging. You act as if. You act as if you already believe you're worthy. You treat yourself with the same kindness and respect you'd give to someone you deeply love. You stop speaking to yourself with contempt. You stop agreeing with the voice that tells you you're a mess. You draw boundaries with people who treat you poorly. You stop apologizing for taking up space, not because you feel it yet, but because you choose to practice it until you do. Here's a tiny, practical version of this. For 1 week, just 1 week, notice every time you say something cruel to yourself inside your own head. Don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Just notice. Write it down if you can. And then ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? Almost always, the answer is no. And that gap, between how you treat someone you love and how you treat yourself, that's where your work is. This matters more than anything else in this book. Because until you believe you're worth having a great life, you will unconsciously sabotage every attempt to build one. Before we go further, I want to ask you something honestly. Think about your life right now. Not the version you show people online. Not the story you tell at parties. The real one. The one you think about late at night. Is it the life you imagined for yourself? If the answer is even slightly no, keep listening. Because the second half of this is where things get really practical. Where we talk about actually doing the work. Not just thinking about it. Not just feeling inspired for an afternoon. But building the kind of life that makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning. And if this video is helping you, drop a comment and let me know. It genuinely means something. And honestly, what's the one thing you know you should change but keep putting off? Share it below. You might be surprised how many people are in exactly the same place. Part 5. The money thing, and why it's not really about money. Okay, let's get into something that makes a lot of people squirm. Money. Jen dedicates a significant part of this book to the relationship we have with money, and not in the way you'd expect. She's not giving you stock tips or budgeting strategies. She's talking about something deeper. She's talking about your money story. Every single one of us grew up hearing things about money. From our parents, from our environment, from TV, from school. And those messages became beliefs. Beliefs that now, whether we know it or not, control how much money we allow ourselves to have. Think about some of the things you heard growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. We're not the kind of people who have that. You have to work yourself to death to make real money. These aren't neutral statements. They're programs. And they're running in your head every single time you make a financial decision. Here's what's wild. Jen talks about how two people can receive the exact same financial opportunity, the same chance, the same information, the same moment. And one person grabs it and the other finds a reason not to. And the only difference is their belief about what they deserve. If you secretly believe that wanting more money is greedy, you will self-sabotage every chance you get to earn it. If you believe that money is hard to keep, it will find a way to leave. If you believe rich people are bad people, you will unconsciously refuse to become one. Now here's the part nobody talks about. Wanting money is not shallow. Wanting financial freedom, wanting to not lie awake at night stressed about bills, wanting to give to the people you love, wanting to build something that matters, that is not a character flaw. Jen says money is just energy. It's a tool. And like any tool, it amplifies what's already there. In bad hands, it causes damage. In good hands, in your hands, it builds things. It creates freedom. It gives you choices. The question isn't whether you deserve money. The question is, what would you do with it? Let that sit for a second. Part 6. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Now we get to the thing that separates people who transform their lives from people who spend their whole lives thinking about transforming their lives. Action. Not comfortable action, not safe action, not the action you've already been taking that's been giving you the same results for years. Scary action. Uncomfortable action. The thing you've been putting off because the thought of it makes your stomach do a little flip. Jen is very clear about this. You will never feel ready. Never. That feeling of readiness that you're waiting for, the confidence, the certainty, the perfect moment, it doesn't come before you act. It comes after, every single time. Think about the bravest thing you've ever done in your life. Maybe it was asking someone out, or quitting a job, or moving to a new city, or having a hard conversation you'd been avoiding for months. Before you did it, how did it feel? Terrifying, probably. Maybe you lost sleep over it. Maybe you went back and forth 100 times. And after? Even if it didn't go perfectly, even if it was messy or imperfect or not quite what you imagined, there was something on the other side that felt different. Freer. More alive. That feeling is what Jen is pointing at. She describes confidence not as a feeling you have, but as a skill you build. By doing the scary thing, over and over again. By proving to yourself, through action, not thought, that you can handle hard things. And this is where most people fail. They wait to feel confident before they act. So they never act. So they never build confidence. It's a loop, a trap. And the only way out of it is to break the pattern. One uncomfortable decision. One email you've been afraid to send. One conversation you've been avoiding. One application you keep not submitting. One idea you've been keeping to yourself because you're afraid of being judged. Do that thing. Not because it won't be scary, but because you are the kind of person who does scary things anyway. Say that to yourself. Seriously, I am the kind of person who does scary things anyway. Because identity shapes behavior. If you see yourself as someone who acts despite fear, you will act despite fear. If you see yourself as someone who's always getting ready to start, you'll always be getting ready. Choose your identity first. Let the behavior follow. Part 7. The people around you matter more than you think. There's a saying you've probably heard: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And Jen takes this idea and makes it deeply personal. She talks about how the people in your immediate environment have an almost invisible but enormously powerful effect on your beliefs, your habits, and your sense of what's possible. If you're surrounded by people who complain constantly, you'll find yourself complaining more. If you're surrounded by people who play small, you'll feel strange and guilty for wanting big things. If you're surrounded by people who have never left their hometown, never started a business, never taken a risk, and you start talking about your dreams, some of them, without even meaning to, will discourage you. Not because they want you to fail, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. This is one of the hardest truths in the book, because it's not about cutting people off cruelly. It's about being honest about what environments you're choosing to spend your most valuable resource in. Your time, your energy, your attention. Jen challenges you to find your people, the ones who are doing the things you want to do, who think bigger than you currently do, who ask why not, instead of why would you risk it. She calls this your environment, and she says your environment is more powerful than your willpower. You can have all the motivation in the world, but if you walk back into a space, physical or social, that reinforces your old beliefs, your old limits, your old identity, it will wear you down every single time. So think about this. Honestly, who are you spending your time with? Are they lifting you or lowering you? And if some of those relationships are painful to examine, Jen would say that's not a coincidence. Part 8. Gratitude as a superpower. Near the end of the book, Jen comes back to something that sounds almost too simple to be true: gratitude. And I know, you've heard this before. Be grateful. Count your blessings. Every self-help book says it. But Jen explains why it works. And when you understand the why, it hits differently. Here's her argument. When you focus on what you lack, on what's going wrong, on what you don't have, your brain gets very good at finding more evidence of lack and wrongness. It's not just a mindset trick. It's how the brain literally works. It scans for what you're focused on. Like a search engine. What you input is what it finds. But when you deliberately shift your focus to what is working, what you do have, something changes. Not just emotionally, but energetically. You start showing up differently. You make decisions from abundance instead of fear. You notice opportunities you would have scrolled right past. You treat people with more generosity because you don't feel like you're running on empty. Gratitude isn't just about feeling good. It's about changing the signal you're broadcasting. Jen suggests starting each day, before your phone, before the news, before you let the world in, with 3 things you're genuinely grateful for. Not forced, not performative, real things. The coffee that's perfect, the person who believes in you, the fact that your body is breathing without you having to think about it. Small things, quiet things, real things. Do that every single morning for 30 days, and pay attention to what starts to shift. So let's come back to where we started. That question at the very beginning. What if the only thing standing between you and the life you've always wanted is you? By now, you know the answer is yes. But you also know something that most people never allow themselves to fully understand. That's not a judgment. It's an invitation. Because if you built the life you have now, unconsciously, unknowingly, from beliefs you didn't choose, imagine what you could build intentionally, with awareness, with courage, with the willingness to do the uncomfortable work. Jen Sincero wrote this book because she was where many of us are. Stuck, confused, talented, but going nowhere. And she didn't find her way out through some magic formula or lucky break. She found her way out by deciding, that she was worth more than a half-lived life, and then acting like it, day after day, decision after decision, until the life she wanted started to look less like a fantasy and more like a plan. You don't have to transform overnight. You don't have to have everything figured out by tomorrow. But you do have to start. And the start is just this: one honest look at the stories you're telling, at the fears you're feeding, at the people you're surrounding yourself with, at how you're speaking to yourself when nobody's listening. Just one honest look, and then one brave choice, and then another, and another. Because here's what Jen wants you to know, what she says over and over in different ways across every page of this book. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are someone who has been sleeping. And this, right now, this moment, this could be the moment you start waking up. 5 years from now, you'll look back at today, and you'll either say, that was when something shifted, or you won't say anything because nothing will have changed. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. And I don't know, maybe that's what it means to be a badass. Not fearless, not perfect, not finished, just awake. Thank you so much for spending this time here with me. If this hit home for you, even a little bit, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment telling me what landed most. I read them all. Until next time, take care of yourself and go be a badass.